get your reaction now to today's proceedings from the ANC spokesperson, Pule Mabe. Pule, good evening to you, and thanks for making time to speak to us. When one looks at part of the evidence that has been gone through at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry today, your organization certainly does not come out looking good. One gets the sense of a party that has allowed an environment of corruption to fester and its members not being held accountable, specifically through disciplinary processes where corruption allegations existed, at least based on the record that was put out by the evidence leaders. Pule, I'm just going to ask you to unmute yourself. I think you've got your mute button on there.
Yes, evening and evening to your viewers. I must first start by acknowledging the fact that we in the African National Congress have made a call, a pledge to all our members to participate in the processes of the State Capture Commission when so invited, so that they are in a position to be able to provide necessary clarities. We ourselves have also cooperated with the same process through our president. The president of the African National Congress has previously appeared before the commission in his capacity as state president, in his capacity as president of the ANC. He appeared again today in his capacity as president of the state. But before you could begin with his opening statements, he sought to first clarify some of the outstanding issues, especially on the cadre deployment of the African National Congress. That the cadre deployment or the deployment committee of the ANC does not assume the role or responsibility of being an appointing authority. It would just, in the normal course, make those recommendations. It is important that all of these issues are brought out to the public, the movement given an opportunity to then clarify those. Because the reason why a commission such as this exists is to enable all of us to be able to deal with whatever blight, whether it's of corruption or of lack of accountability that might have engulfed our public institutions, and then say, what kind of path do we want to craft for the people of this country going forward, where there is a greater transparency, where there is a greater accountability, where good governance is being embraced by either those who are public representatives or those that are appointed to administrate state-owned enterprises and or government departments.
And certainly, Pule, before we can talk about moving on, there has to be a full acknowledgement of the cost of the failure of the ANC. In some instances, even if we read into what the Deputy Justice Chief Justice Raymond Zondo was saying, that there is an impression that the ANC was not as interested in what its deployments were doing in cabinet, and not just in cabinet, but also in some of the SOEs, and that there simply hasn't been accountability, especially when we look at what happened with the likes of PRASA. But I think the explanation can apply across different scenarios. You know, there's a sense that the ANC has failed the people of this country. And when you hear the evidence coming out of the commission, it's hard to dispute that, because even by your own records, there's been nobody held responsible through the disciplinary processes for corruption in the ANC. Why is that?
Well, Kathy, maybe let's just get something right here. The ANC is a political organization. The ANC doesn't run SOEs. The ANC doesn't do so. SOEs are answerable and accountable to government departments. And those government departments have got a link with Parliament through relevant portfolio committees. where you have got a number of institutions that exist, including Chapter 9 institutions like your SCOPA, the Auditor General, and all of that. So where there are instances of misnomers or lack of accountability, a political party would not necessarily be the one that deals with that, because the ANC doesn't appoint CEOs of parastatals. The ANC doesn't appoint people who are in government and who are given an array of responsibilities. The ANC has got its own deployees who serve in the national executive at the behest of the president, and some who are also members of parliament. When they do their own oversight, the expectation is that where they pick up wrongdoing, they are able to call in, whether it's the SIU, is the Hawks, all other institutions of law enforcement. And this has been happening. Where there has been people accused of wrongdoing, you have got quite a number of officials, either who are municipal managers or directors in state institutions, who have either been convicted or are being charged of serious crimes of corruption. Now, this is part of the oversight work that is being done by Parliament. So we should not, an impression must never be created out in the public that the African National Congress has got a responsibility to hold CEOs accountable.
You may not necessarily have the responsibility of holding CEOs accountable within their organizations, but in as far as those deployments are coming through from recommendations that are being made within your own deployment committees, then there must be a level of responsibility that is borne on the party. And that's precisely the point that, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo was really driving home today. That's part of the reason why Pule Mabe would have gone to the ANC's top 6 to raise concerns about what he saw and described as state capture at PRASA, and still have nobody do anything about it.
Well, they will ordinarily, in the normal course, report to the relevant portfolio committees where there are such instances. It will not have much to do with the ANC. Otherwise, there's going to be a conflation of the role of party and state. State institutions have got their own policies, the manner in which they are ran, and all of that. That is not being done by the African National Congress as an organization. You have got portfolio committees in Parliament who are charged with that kind of a responsibility. For instance, I don't see whether it's Pule Mabe or anyone coming to report the work of an SOE to the national officials of the African National Congress. It has got entirely nothing to do with them. There is an executive authority. Can I just come in so that we can educate your viewers as well? There is an executive authority in the form of a minister. If it's a national, so for instance, PRASA. Let's talk about PRASA. PRASA, the main shareholder of PRASA is the National Department of Transport. They've got the shareholders compact, and that shareholders compact effectively denotes who is in charge of some of the things that they're expected to do. For instance, in this instance, it will be Comrade Mbalola who will go out when he appropriate monies or budgets for his various agencies. He will also be able to point out how much of those that is being appropriated would go towards the running of the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa. So it happens like that. It has got nothing to do with the African National Congress. There are cadres that are entrusted with the responsibility who are expected to come back and account.
And that's precisely the point that I'm raising with you, because the ANC, through this commission, has been advocating for its policy of cadre deployment. Now, you can't in the same breath say we are placing people in positions of decision-making and influence in government because we are the party of the day, and then in the next breath say we are not responsible for holding those people accountable. You can't have it both ways. Clearly you don't. Clearly, I've not been understood here. My statement is being taken out of context. The African National Congress has got a deployment committee. The deployment committee of the ANC is not an appointing authority. It makes
recommendations, because the ANC would take interest in the work of government, because the ANC contests power, sells its manifesto and all of that. But strictly speaking, as a party, we have got members of the executive. In provinces, these members of the executive will be MECs who account and answer to the premier of that province. At the national level, these members of the executive will be ministers. Now, agencies of state account and answer to these executive authorities. Should there be issues that relate to the conduct of managers or directors in some of those institutions, the executive authority will have to then act. And then when they brief the party as part of their overall oversight, they will then say, where there were matters of maladministration or malfeasance, these are the kind of actions that we shall have taken. That's how it happens. That's why you have
and I think the broader point is that when they come back to the party to give you whatever reports they're giving you, where people have been accused of corruption and those people are card-carrying members of the ANC, by the record of the disciplinary action taken against those individuals where corruption is concerned, there is no track record.
Well, Kathy, let me again assist here, because I think maybe that's the work that we need to be doing in the African National Congress, to help yourselves in the media and the broader society to understand the functioning of the African National Congress. We have got the Integrity Commission, for instance, where there are serious allegations leveled against cadres of the ANC. It will mostly be those that are in leadership structures, in your RECs, in your PECs, and in your NEC. The IC, the Integrity Commission, will, in the normal course, initiate processes. There have been a number of reports of the Integrity Commission. A number of recommendations have been made as part of that process. What you are seeing now as cadres being asked to step aside, this is actually part of us wanting to make sure that in our own work, we also work to enhance the integrity, credibility, and standing of the African National Congress out in the public. So it is not entirely factual that action has not been taken, but what the ANC will not be able to do is that the ANC is not going to be able to go around looking at the conduct of people who are chief directors and directors in government. I mean, they are a code of conduct there that they've got to do with their own conduct. If there are things that they are doing and they are proven to be in the wrong, either they face expulsion or they are criminally charged. There are many of them. I gave you an example. There are many municipal managers who have been charged. Others have been convicted for such crimes as well.
Well, quickly running out of time, let me just end off with this issue in terms of the meetings of the deployment committee. Does the committee take meetings? How are you able to keep tabs on the discussions that have been made, that have been had rather within the deployment committee, and ensure that whatever's been implemented is in line with those meetings?
Well, remember, deployment committees only would ordinarily make recommendations.
Yes, but they also meet.
By the way,
they meet.
And by the way, it is not always the case that recommendations of the deployment committee would then become final choices. No, I mean, the deployment committee could make a recommendation that so and so could make a better chair of this board, and a minister concerned who is running the department can arrive at a different determination.
Yes,
such
but why don't those meetings have minutes, Pule? Sorry, I just need you to answer that one question because we've completely run out of time. Why don't they have minutes?
Why don't they
have minutes?
You know what? The way in which ANC runs its internal committees and structures really remains a desire of the African National Congress. The ANC is not an SOE. The ANC is not like Transnet. The ANC defines its own rules and then limited to its own members. and then says to its own members,
so
this
then
is how we want to run our own internal...
How do you account to the branches about what is being discussed in the deployment committee when they can't access any kind of meetings, minutes of those meetings?
I think in your next live you must join the ANC so that you can understand some of these things much better, because it doesn't work like that. I mean, we don't go as the NEC account to branches on issues of the deployment committee. Because, for instance, Katie, just a simple example, a branch would have one of its members serving as a councillor. And now you have got more than 3,000 wards in the country. Now, this councillor who serves in the ward and is given a certain responsibility in that municipality, maybe to serve as a member of a mayoral committee. That decision would not have been taken by the NEC. It will have been taken either by their own sub-regional or zonal structure, or by their own regional executive committee. Really, what we concern ourselves with at the national level are matters that have got to do with the national space, not the entirety of what happens at the branch level, at the regional level, and the provincial. There are structures of the ANC. We've got a network of structures from branches, regions, province, and up to national level. And all of them have got to discharge their own responsibility in the manner that allows them to be able to account to structures at their level of operation.
We're going to have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we've completely run out of time for that interview. The spokesperson of the ANC there, Pule Mabe. And you'd remember that the issue of the minutes of those meetings of the deployment committee became an issue of discussion and a matter that the president had to answer to earlier on in the day, because, you know, the questions about the transparency of that process and how does one verify what has been discussed in the deployment committee versus what is being implemented when it comes to the actual appointments. Well,